Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra Unit 10 review. This is our big study guide before the test. So make sure you're taking good notes. If you've got a flip book and you want to put some of these problems in there, that'd be a great idea. Alright, so number 1 says the scatter plot and table of values shows the relationship between the minutes a student studied for their math test and their grade in percent received on that test. That's a great thing to talk about right before we take a test, don't you think? So all the data is on the left. Notice that the time is on the bottom, and that is our x, and the score is on the y-axis. Okay, so what do you feel that the general trend is this? First off, is it a linear, exponential, or quadratic relationship or graph? What do you think? Well, you should be saying that this is linear. All right. Now, is it positive? Yeah. Okay. So it shows a, is it moderate? Is it strong? Is it weak? Perfect? Yeah, I'd say moderate. So I'm going to say a moderate and positive relationship. Okay, so before we got our handy dandy calculators out and then we plugged in all the points and figured out the equation that way, we did it the old-fashioned way, like we did in, I think it was unit 4 or 3. Okay, so it asks us to draw the line of best fit using the points 1568 and 4580. Write the slope-intercept equation of the line. So let's take a look at where those points are at. 1568. Yay. Well, let's see, it goes 0 to 20. So half of that would be 10. And then if I cut that in half, that'd be 5, and that would be 15. So I'm looking for 1568. Oh, well, what do you know? Looks like that point's already there. All right, so 1568, and the other one is 4580. So let's see, that would be 50. So if I cut that in half, 45. So let's go up to 45, 4580. So that's what they're telling me is the line of best fit. Okay, so between those 2 points, you should draw your line. I'm getting my ruler out right now. All right, so move this up a little bit. We want to go right between those 2 points, and it should look, there we go. So that's what they're telling me is the line of best fit. And if you look at it, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4 above, 1, 2, 3 below, and it goes through 3 points. So I think that's pretty good. Okay, but what's the equation of the line? I don't even have the slope. Oh, well, maybe that means I have to find the slope. Okay, so if we're going to find the slope, we need to use the equation y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so remember that your y's go on the top, 80 and 68, and then 45 and 15. All right, what do you get for the top? 12, and the bottom is 30. Now, we can reduce the fraction, that's fine, and say that that is 2 over 5. But when we're working with statistics and stuff like this, we don't have to have the fraction. It's good to have the decimal. Okay, so the decimal for this would be 0.4. Okay, now that we have that and we found the slope, we need to go into point slope. to find the equation. And remember that point slope is y minus y1 equals your slope x minus x1. Okay, so we just found our slope. So that's what we're going to plug in here. And then you can pick any x value, or any x or y, any point. It doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to do the one with the smaller numbers. And that's where the 68 and the 15 come into play. Okay, so we have to distribute, and we get y minus 68 equals 0.4x minus, you should have gotten 6, and then we have to add 68 to both sides. And then we get y equals 0.4x plus 62. And that's our equation. Okay, next one says, using your equation, estimate the percent a student would receive on their math test if he or she studied for 75 minutes. Well, it looks like we need to know what's our x and what's our y. So they told us 75 minutes, and they're asking us for the percent. So I'm going to come up to the top again and be like, oh, the percent is y, and the minutes is x. So that means that if x is the minutes, x is 75, and we're trying to find out what y is. Okay? And then we just plug into the equation. Y equals 0.4 times 75 plus 62. Well, what'd you get? Did you do it yet? Come on. You should get that y equals 92. And you got to remember that they're asking for what percent did they get. So we have to label our answer, and it's 92%. All right, D. Using your equation, estimate the time a student spent studying for their math test if they received a 65% on their test. So once again, x and y. Just to estimate the time, and they told us that they received a 65%. Well, we just found out from the one above that time is x and y is 65. Okay, the percent was the y. So plugging that into our equation, we get 65 equals 0.4x plus 62. Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to subtract 62 to both sides. And we get 3 equals 0.4x. And then we have to divide both sides by 0.4. And when we get that x equals, you should have gotten 7.5 minutes. What do you think? Did they do a good job studying for that test? I don't think so. Okay, why don't we go ahead and flip it over? We'll go through 2 questions here. So, Bernard Kettlewell, a naturalist, studied the predation of birds on moths, birds eating moths, by releasing moths one day and recapturing them on the next day. Here are the results of his release-recapture experiment. Use your graphing calculator to create a scatter plot of the data set. Describe the correlation between the 2 variables. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is take out our graphing calculators and plug in all that data. So remember that every time you start, you should make sure that plot 1 is listed and that all of these are marked. Okay? So make sure it's on scatter plot, and it's on mark. Okay? And after that, we need to enter all of our data. So I'm going to clear the data by highlighting the top and hitting clear, and I'm going to plug all the information in. So why don't you pause the video and do it yourself as well. Okay, so here's the window that I set. And now let's take a look at it. Well, what do you think? What are some words that you can use to describe this? One, I'd say that it's linear. Two, that it's positive. And what do you think? Moderate? I don't think it's strong. Yeah, I'd go with moderate. Okay, so we would say that describe the correlation between the variables. Let's see, so it's a linear. We said that it's positive and that it's moderate. Okay, so use your graphing calculator to find the equation of the line of best fit and to round nearest hundredth. Remember that that's the second decimal. Okay, so we're going to go to stat. We're going to go to calculate. I know that it's linear, so I'm going to do the line reg and calculate. And remember, we're only looking for A and B. So go ahead and write your equation using that information. If you need to pause the video to get it, go ahead and do that. But you should have gotten that y equals 0.31x minus 4.83. All right, so using your equation from part B, predict the number of, what are we predicting the number of? Moths recaptured when 95 moths are released. Well, let's see. Up here it's saying that the released is X and the recaptured is Y. So, well, that means that I've got the X. So I'm going to plug this value in for X. Okay, so go ahead and solve that. What'd you get? Well, let's take a look. It told us to round to the nearest moth. So if you should have gotten 24.62. You can't have 0.62 of a moth. Okay, so anytime we're talking about a living being, if we have point something, we have to round up. Okay, so this is saying that they should have recaptured 25 moths. Okay, what about D? Use the equation to predict the number of moths that were released. Okay, so we got to predict the number of moths that were released when 42 are recaptured. And once again, we have to round to the nearest moth. So this time, the 42, if we look back up, recaptured is Y. Guys, that's what you have to look back at your data for this, okay? So the last one, X was 95 and Y was question mark. I forgot to do that. This time, X is question mark and Y is 42. So in our equation, we have 42 equals 0.31x minus 4.83. All right, so how would we solve that? Okay, well, we have to add the 4.83 to the other side to get the x by itself. We get 46.83 equals 0.31x. And that's right. And then we have to divide by 0.31. And what do you get? Did you get 151.06? Yeah. So how would we round that? Well, it's only 0.06, so I can go to 151, right? Remember, anytime we're talking about living creatures, we're going to round that up. So it's going to be 152 moths. Okay? All right, guys, I'm going to stop the video right here. The next video for the review will be questions 3 and 4. Now, if you have any questions, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra, Unit 10, Review. Thanks for watching.